Hello, dear friend. Welcome to Cardiac Radio at 11 p.m. Here we are. We are here to nourish our souls together. And today we're studying another chapter of the book Evolution into Worlds. Isn't that amazing that you and I are always destined to progress, never to regress? That's fascinating. That changes our lives completely. Our perspective in life is totally new because many people feel defeated in their lives, not aware because they are not aware that they are progressing. We never regress. We may stagnate for a while, but it all depends on our will. Our will is the differential element. And today we're going to be studying chapter 18th of part 2 of the book Evolution into Worlds. Can you believe it? Of 20 chapters in the second part, we are on 18th chapter. It's fascinating. It's almost like a miracle. When we first started the book, the study of this book, we were like, oh my gosh, we're going to study one a day. Is that too much? Oh, yeah, maybe too much. But you can always revisit and take another turn into studying it together, and especially in a group. So that's why we're studying here together in a group. And I see beautiful friends from many different locations. Here we are, Leia Severo, Valéria Benfica, Teresa Castro, Letícia Silveira, Sunshine. I see many beautiful faces here. Yes, it's a joy to be with all of you. Ricardo Bintercourt, hello Souza, right? And many more. So friends, if you're watching this on demand or listening to it on demand, remember the feeling is always of the moment, right? So this book, Evolution into Worlds, unique, a masterpiece, was written in 1958, 60 years ago, in Brazil, through the mediums Chico Xavier and Valdo Vieira. They were in two different cities. I keep repeating this information because if people listen just to this episode, they have a reference. We can't lose sight that this book is unique not only because of how it was written, 6 months, only in 6 months, two different mediums who were in two different cities. Mediumistically written, the spirit author is Luiz, and the uniqueness of this book is its style, the approach, like never seen before on the earth. And the differential here is the proposal. The book is not knowledge for knowledge. This book comes to really rescue in us that feeling that we are immortal, sacredly immortal. We are holy in our immortality. And why we're repeating this? Because sometimes we have a lot of knowledge we acquire, but we forget that if we do not feel it, it's useless. It's useless for a while. Exactly. Right? Thank you, Rudy. Rafael Medeiros, Silvio Otério, Jailton, it's a joy to the world. We are together again, and we are so happy to have the help of Marco Magalhães, Shane Martin, because it enriches so much our studies. Today, we're studying part of our immortality, as the goal of the book says, and we will ignite the fire of our hope. This chapter 18 of part 2 is titled Evolution and Destiny. Everybody likes to talk about destiny, karma, fatality, and sometimes we often feel like free will doesn't really exist, right? It's a big discussion in science, but it's a big discussion everywhere. Tonight we were reading a beautiful dissertation by the renowned scholar in Spiritism, Martins Peralva, in a book that is yet to be in English, named O Pensamento de Emmanuel, Emmanuel's Thought. He talks about our free will, and there's so many different ways of seeing free will, but Spiritism sees free will in quite a unique way. And tonight, as we study evolution and destiny, we're going to talk about free will as well. Okay? So, we will, Leticia, may we dedicate all the vibrations that we're summing up today to the people in your city, Campinas. Okay, Leticia? We pray that they transition with the help of the loving spirits. And we pray that those who committed the tragedy there, they also receive a helping hand to bring them to their balance. Ready? Are we ready? Yes? Set and go. So here we are. Let's share the slides because the slides help us visualize, right? So let us see what it is. It says, Evolution and Destiny. Every chapter begins with a question in part 2. And the question today is evil a determination of our destiny? Is evil a determination of our destiny? What do you think? Are there people who are destined to be evil? Some people think that that's what it is. I know parents who actually think that the children were born to create commotion, etc. You know, in Hollywood, they made movies talking about how evil forces planned the birth of an evil baby to create a commotion. Is that real? Is that really possible? To be reborn? To create a mess? What do the spirits say? Let's see what André Luiz brings to us. Of course, it goes hand in hand with Kardec. But this question may change your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your children, with your spouse, with your colleagues, society as a whole. Because there are many people who believe that it is possible that people are reborn for evil purposes. Is that a real thing or not? Shall we see it? Okay, let's see what André Luiz is going to reveal. He begins by saying, no one is born destined to evil. No one. Because such disposition would go against the fundamentals of eternal good onto which raises the work of God. Beautiful, André Luiz. Thank you. Thank you for bringing common sense to our minds. Why? Because he's clear cut. He knows that there are many people who believe in this. And the worst of it all is when we see parents believing that their children were born or reborn to create a mess. That does not exist. No one is born destined to evil, to commit evil, to do evil. And it would go against the good of God, the work of God. Birth by principle in itself is a gift of God. It's about life. Even Freud recognized that in life there is the force, there is the impulse of life, the impulse of death. In Spiritism, we talk about the law of construction and of destruction. Birth, rebirth, is in itself life. There's nothing in it that expresses death or the opposite of light. That's why we say gave birth and gave light. In some cultures, we even say gave light, depending on the language. So let us keep this in mind. No one is born destined to it. So let us revisit in our lives. Do you believe that either you or somebody who you know is born to do evil? Do you think that that's the purpose? Because today we need to take that belief and change it because it doesn't make sense. This is how empowering this book is, because it tells us that we are born to do the good. Yes, the song, I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I reincarnated to learn to do good. Exactly. Reincarnation, the path of progress. Reincarnation, the opportunity to achieve true happiness. So, nobody is born to do evil. Period. So, this is important. Let's embrace. And if you think you were born or reborn yet again by mistake, it doesn't exist. There is no mistake or chance in this universe. Everything is well coordinated. This universe is so orderly, and we'll see in this chapter that everything is presided by higher forces. What do you think about this? Does it change your lives? It changes our lives completely, right? It does. It changes everything. So let us go back in and see how he continues explaining it to us. He says then, exactly, Silvio is saying, we all have the same chance to do good. Exactly. And he continues by saying, the spirit who is reborn in the terrestrial cradle brings the expiating trial that they should undergo or the redeeming task that they chose in accordance with incurred debts. What is he saying to us? Andre Luiz is telling us the beauty of it all. He's saying two choices. Either we reincarnate to expiate, which means to revisit how it feels what we have done to others, or a task of reparation. Remember in the book Heaven and Hell, it says, Kardec explains, that there is a three-step ladder for us when we make a mistake. First, we recognize that we missed the mark, repentance. Second, expiation. We go through the same thing. And kicking and screaming at that face is not going to help. Because often we're like, but why? Why am I going through this? Resignation. Calm and resignation, renunciation, surrender, however we want to name it, says in the Gospel according to Spiritism, are the antidotes to suicide, to madness. We're seeing a lot of mental illnesses in the world, a lot. Lack of surrender to the designs of on high. What is easier? Instead of bumping heads, radical acceptance. What is to be in this state of mind? Radical acceptance. To be lazy? No. It's when I know the fine line of what I can do to change and what I cannot. So it's a daily practice, minute decisions. When I say, oh, I have to do this task, or I could simply do nothing. Nobody's seeing, nobody's watching, etc. Well, but the thing is, I can make a decision, say, I'm going to surrender to fulfilling this task because I know I will feel better afterwards and my body will be more easily rested after I fulfill my moral physical duty. He talks here, Andre Luiz, about reincarnatory plan. You and I have a reincarnatory plan. Do you remember? Maybe not, right? But there is a plan. And what can we do to assess it? Prayer and self-study. Observe the types of challenges that you experience, and then we'll know what we need to work upon. I'll give an example. The example of a father and a mother who have a hard time with their children. Well, certainly, in that life, one of the main themes of their reincarnation is the family. Other people have financial difficulties. Central theme. What does that mean? I need to focus on learning how to manage the resources more wisely, but not more wisely for my own benefit, but for the benefit of the whole. That's why we recommend in that regard the book Money by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier. And if you know Portuguese, the book's title is Dinheiro, believe it or not. We have already studied it here at Kardec Radio. You can watch the episodes on YouTube or Facebook at Kardec Radio or the SoundCloud playlist, and you can go over the chapters with Emmanuel. It's a different take on money. He says money is energy, and money comes from God. Hard to believe, right? But we can feel it. We can study that book. So in each reincarnation, there is a main theme, sometimes several themes, but there are central ones. We need to observe and say, I know, I came here to work on this. Theme of our health, for example. Learning to take care of the physical body, to respect this physical body, to take care. There are people who have pets and they treat their pets better than they treat their physical bodies. They give their dogs a bath, they give the best meals, but then when it comes to their physical body, they don't give it enough breaks, enough rest, enough healthy food, or enough loving care, and then of course health is going to suffer. We don't respect the limits of the body. We're supposed to be limited. And I know people who get to their aging years and they complain, oh my gosh, I don't like to age. Well, that's not radical acceptance. Well, Vanessa, is it possible to like it? Well, it depends. If I understand that limitations are proposals and not true limitations, then I learn, seek the good in the aging years. We're no longer in the aging years, we're no longer supposed to do the same things we used to do when we were teenagers. So our stubbornness makes us feel that aging is bad. But if I look at it from the brighter side, I say, I am no longer to be doing these types of physical activities, but I'm being asked to do A, B, C, D, Z types of activities in which my body won't be requested in that way. And then I learn in my radical acceptance to embrace the beauty of it all. There are people who have a hard time embracing the body that they came in. Oh, I didn't want to come into this body. I would rather be taller or shorter or bigger or smaller and blonder or this and the other. And then no radical acceptance to it, no calm or resignation. We start having several different types of physical issues. Okay? More. You want more, right? Andrea Luiz, where are you? So let's go back to Andrea Luiz. He tells us, first case in terms of reincarnation, he says, as in earthly societies, the same principles prevail by which if an individual is a confessed criminal, they must be segregated into appropriate correctional facility for proper rehabilitation. Here Andrea Luiz is talking to us about the fact that, as we can see here, when we are in a trial, we need to be corrected. We'll be put together in a situation to rehabilitate ourselves. The physical body, the social, the financial, the professional, the family environment, everything to rehabilitate ourselves. That's one type of the cases of our reincarnation. So somebody who was actually a criminal now needs to reincarnate and put in a condition that has some limitations to promote rehabilitation. Second case, he says, if they are just an apprentice in the field of experience with debts and credits, without serious offense to be redeemed, it is fair to grant them permission to ask higher authorities who tutor their movements the kind of work or struggle in which they feel more apt to serve in self-improvement. That's case number 2. Those who have already passed a certain stage of evolution and now they are in a path of more regeneration. That's the phase we are entering on the earth. When we are expiating for serious crimes, we experience a lot of constrictions and restrictions. And we need to understand why. And many people don't. They rebel against, and Andrea Luiz is going to show to us the consequences of being rebellious and not accepting the correction. Before we move forward, we need to ask this question. Have you? And I'm asking you not because you needed to be put on the corner, no, but we need to ask ourselves to feel it. Do you recognize the corrections, the educational program that God is working with us in this life? Or are we rebelling against, like not accepting the restrictions, the constrictions, the challenges? Where do you think you are? That attitude towards the educational program that is proposed in this life may change completely the way we live our lives. Many problems, says the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 5, blessed are the afflicted, present causes of this, of suffering, of affliction. We create it. Why? Because we're rebellious. Because we don't want to surrender. So, read that part of the chapter 5 in the Gospel according to Spiritism, plus the book Radical Acceptance by Tara Brach. So André Luiz now talks about being born and reborn yet again to correct ourselves. He says, let us understand that when the spirits had perpetrated a crime subjected to painful correction, they are not admitted in prison or in repairing work to incur in greater crimes, which would only aggravate guilt before the law. So there are people who believe that there are people who are destined and they are born to do evil because the way they behave, they were reborn just to mess up with people's lives. But that's not the case. The case is of rebelliousness. They are not accepting the correction, and then they incur in more infractions. Question. We need to ask this question. This knowledge is beautiful, but if we don't bring it to us, am I in the 10,000 points of our reincarnatory plan? Am I adjusting myself, correcting myself, or am I worsening it? How do I know? It depends on how you feel. Still feeling empty? It's a strong sign that we're not fulfilling our reincarnatory plan. Am I feeling anxious? Strong sign that I'm not surrendering. Am I feeling depressed? Strong sign that I am not surrendering. Am I feeling all too angry all the time? Super strong sign that I am rebelling against the proposal in this life. How do I measure? What is the thermometer for my life, knowing that I'm fulfilling it? Go to school. Observe a good student. They have the same amount of lessons to put on, exams to go through, but their attitude is the main difference. The good student accepts the lesson and accepts the tests and the exams and the correction of the teacher. The good student receives criticism and absorbs it easily. The good student. The bad student is always sensitive, kicking and screaming. Nothing is good, everything is terrible, and is complaining and nagging, etc. Bad student in life. Which one are we? Then André Luiz continues by telling us, it is natural that the redeeming debtor may go through strong impulses and relapses in the same error in which they went bankrupt. So he's talking about our old conditionings. He's talking about impulses that are related to evil tendencies. We still go there. We were reborn to adjust ourselves, but boom, bah, there we go. When we talk about free will, I want to share with you that there is a line of science that sociology thinks that we incur in mistakes because of social pressure. Some lines of medicine in general believe that it's just a mechanical byproduct of our neurochemistry, right? We're not actually free to choose. And then there is another line in the study of human laws that believe that we have free will and we need to be judged according to that. Spiritism tells us that there is an equation in which We're a big part of it. There are other ones that are responsible too. So we observe ourselves, our part, strong impulses that come from the past. Take a look. You're driving. You use a GPS. But you're so used to going to work that you no longer need a GPS. One day you say, I want to try a new route. And you put the GPS on the new route and you say, I'm going to go there. The GPS is on. Halfway through the path, you got distracted and your car is back again in the same old path. What happened there? Conditioning. But what caused the rerouting, the distraction, right? Naturally, when we distract, we go back to the old habit. How often are we distracted? Often. Mind over matter is a true exercise. If everything I do, say, think, and decide to feel, I think first, reflect, I will decrease my probability of incurring in the same mistake. So I need to practice relaxation breathing all the time. Stay cool. Don't react. Take action. When we react, the old conditioning is back, the strong impulses, and then we incur in the same mistake. Jesus is our guide and model when we saw in several studies we've done, especially in the book Good News by Humberto de Campos' brother X, through Chico Xavier, that Jesus never reacted. He was always cool, firm, but always reflecting. Often people would ask him questions. He wouldn't address immediately. He would wait a while and reply. Not because he needed some time, but he was educating us. So you and I can learn the pathway against going back to, like, refraining, preventing strong impulses of old conditioning from popping up. Breathing in and out 3 times, that's it, says Dr. Herbert Benson from Harvard University. Inflating the lower abdomen, it's abdominal breathing or relaxation breathing. Breathing in, holding it, breathing out 3 times. Once again, how do you feel now? Relaxed. Think. What did that person say again? Oh, okay. Cool it down. The flames, like Thich Nhat Hanh in his book Anger, Cooling Down the Flames, showing to us that there is a pathway to domesticate those strong impulses, conditionings of the past. Okay, let's go back to Andre Luiz and see what else he shares with us. He then says, the greater is the moral diversion, the greater may be such impulses and relapses. So we're going to have a harder time composing ourselves if we have a strong pathway in that, let's say, deviation of the soul. Did we get it, friends? Let me know. Okay? So he's saying, so in some children, for example, parents need to observe that in some children, we're going to say clear cut that they have different needs. So we need to work on it harder, like physical therapy for the soul. We need to put ourselves into a program. The other night I was sharing with a friend, parents are coaches of their children. We need to be wise coaches, observe what they need and work on it. Put ourselves into a program, put them in a program, and we together disciplining one another with love. And you see amongst different children, different needs. That's not a big deal. And we're like, oh my gosh, it's so tiresome. Well, but what are we doing here in this reincarnation? Vacation? No. We're in school. We need to be good students. Apply ourselves. So you can measure previous lives' deeds by the impulses of today. In the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec, he talks about tendencies, behavioral tendencies, instinctive tendencies, he says, when he talks about how do we recognize our old conditionings by the current instinctive tendencies, and André Luiz calls it strong impulses. Instinctive tendencies in the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec. Here in Evolution into Worlds, André Luiz says strong impulses. So why don't we do a homework? Observe 3 strong impulses that you have brought in this life and extrapolate previous lives. Huh? How have we done in previous lives in that regard? Shall we, friends? In the next 24 hours, let us research ourselves. Let us do the research on our own selves and outline the top 3 strong impulses we have brought from previous lives. Just observe our instinctive tendencies in this life. And write it down. Rihanna is saying, I love this chapter. It's great information for a lecture of reflecting on our past impulse. Beautiful conclusion, Rihanna. I agree with you. And he's going to say more. However, the trial should be assimilated, he says, as amending resource, never as escaping mechanism to expand the incurred debts. But what do majority of people do? They see the restrictions and constrictions. They start kicking and screaming and worsen their problems. Can I give an explanation? I know it may be controversial, but it's true. You are born in a certain family, but you are not on the same page. Instead of working on reconciliation, patience, and tolerance, what do? My parents and I don't get along. That's it. We're not supposed to live together. I don't want to see them again. And then we go to the other end of the world. But we were supposed to be reborn to respect each other, not to be alike. Nobody is reborn to be alike, but to amend ourselves. In the book Gospel According to Spiritism, chapter 14, item 9, St. Augustine writes to us, how a spirit of somebody who is not of the same spiritual family is projected into a new reincarnation to make amends and to reconcile with the parents, brothers and sisters, etc. Is it going to be easy? No, but it's not impossible. But what do? We give up. Or worse than this, when parents give up on their children. I know several cases of parents who put down their children, even when they are in the belly, saying, "Oh, I remember once working as a scientist, and then a technician came. She was pregnant. She put her hand on her belly and said, 'I don't know what to do with this child. I'm not so sure what's going to happen with her life.'" And then I said, "Shh, don't say that." And she said, "Why not?" "Because your baby's listening to you." Ah, Vanessa. Oh, it's true psychology, prenatal psychology. There is enough science already proving to us that they feel what we feel. They know what we're saying. For God's sake, do not say that. Find help. Because if you don't know, don't pass it on to your child. Responsibility. We need to be compassionate. And as Mentor Joseph said the other night, another loving spirit brought to us in a mediumistic message yesterday. A new era on the earth is going to begin when we have a true constitution in the world talking about the rights of the fetus, of the baby that is not yet born. When we respect the most fragile form of life, the prenatal life, the unborn baby, then our society is becoming truly civilized. But what do? We're supposed to embrace that life, but we don't want it. Read the case of the girl in the book Action and Reaction. There is a chapter about it. Aggravated that one type. There are several chapters that talk about this, but I'm just renaming it. It's about a debt, and the girl is supposed to receive a former, let's say, kind of enemy as her child. She's not conscious about it, but she feels. She decides to push it out. And what happens? Read the book, Action and Reaction by Luiz. Instead of embracing it, she pushes it away and creates a big mistake, more debt. It's hard and not impossible. So Luiz tells us, no one is predeterminedly destined by the higher plane to relapse or to be vicious, to be useless, or to be criminal with justified transit in robbery or dipsomania, right? In prostitution or idleness, in homicide or suicide. What do you think? Do you think people are predestined to do all those evil, wrong things? Luiz saying no. No reincarnation is programmed for that. Are you convinced, my friends? Does it make sense to you, or do you still have questions? Because this study is very insistent in explaining to us time and again that there is no predetermination regarding evil. Somebody is not born or reborn to be an alcoholic, dipsomania. Nobody is reborn to be useless or to be in addictions or in prostitution, etc. Okay? And Luiz continues. While recapitulating our own experiences, we may go through the impulses to engage again in this or that less worthy way in this or that aspect of life. This is the byproduct of the influence of our past in us, which instills in us the temptation originally inside of us to make of ourselves what we have been in opposition to what we should become. What is he telling us here? He's talking again about the old conditionings. He's saying we are supposed to recapitulate. We're supposed to be tested in the very issues that we repeated, that we were not able to succeed in a previous life. So, if we cheated in a previous life, we're going to go through the same temptation which is inside of us. It's not external. Usually, people think that somebody is the source of temptation. No, Andre Luiz in this book and in the next book, Mechanisms of Mediumship, he talks about triggers. He says somebody may come and stimulate, but if we don't have a receptor in us, a foundation in us, we do not connect. Some people who have children who are addicted to drugs or to other types of addiction, they say, since my son or my daughter started going out with XYZ friends, they started their addiction, as if those friends are the cause, the temptation. No, they were also being tested at the same time, but they failed. In previous lives, together they failed, they got together again to pass the test and they failed. Nations go through this. As a nation. Sometimes a whole company, sometimes a whole family has to go through the same trial to see if we pass the test. As a collective, we have the individual evolution and the reincarnatory plan for that individual that intersects, overlaps with the collective evolution. Right now on the earth, we're all going through different and similar tests. Different and similar. Some that pertain to the collective and others that are specific to us. It is interesting, says Sunshine, to ponder that someone like Hitler did not have a life that was at all predestined in the direction it went. Exactly. Hitler and Caligula and Nero and many psychopaths, right? They were supposed to make it right and they deviated. But remember, as Sunshine is saying, they didn't. That Hitler is not an isolated case. He had a whole group, incarnated and discarnated, that was in the same mindset. Like a robbery. It's not only one person, it's a group. Current cases of rape, a group. People, group, a group moving towards that crime, committing crime together. They were all supposed to make it right. They failed again. And the theme of persecuting the Jewish is ancient. It's way before Hitler. If you go to the Egyptian time, we can see right there, thousands of years ago. So that theme is being repeated, and yet Nowadays, in the current times we're living in, we're still revisiting it. Why? Because there are many people who are reincarnating to see if they are finally going to let go and say, we're not more or less because of our religious choice. We're not more or less because we're born or reborn here. We're not more or less because we're born or reborn in a particular color of skin. We're not more or less because we're reborn or born in a particular socioeconomic status, right? So, what else does André Luiz tell us? Let's see. Well, he ends, sorry friends, but he ends the answer to that question in regards to our evolution, the predetermination of evil, saying clear cut. Number one, nobody's reborn to be evil. Two, if we are, it's because we're not educating ourselves. Education is everything. And remember, to learn the new, we need effort and repetition. Effort and repetition. Effort and repetition, meaning recapitulation. So if I see a child that is not adequate, we need to educate well. We need to change the way we're educating. If we ourselves are not overcoming old conditionings, we need to find a new educational approach. Make an effort and recapitulate until we acquire a new habit. Okay? In this chapter, he also asks another question. There is actually, there are three more questions that he asks in this chapter. The next question that he asks is, let's see. Okay, hold on, friends. What percentage of time will the spirit in medium level spent in between incarnate internships? So he's talking about our time between reincarnations. How much time do we spend? We're talking about the ordinary, like medium level. It's a new way of saying by André Luiz. He's saying we're not too inferior, not too superior. We're just average, right? So we call the time in between reincarnations, there is a technical term in the science of the spirits, erraticity, meaning not about error, but the time that we are wandering, that we're spending in between reincarnations. He says, for the average spirit, the percentage of time spent in the spiritual plane varies according to the level of time gained in the recent incarnate internship. The more extensive knowledge and the higher provision of acquired virtues by the spirit, the more they enjoy a wider period of time in the superior sphere to obtain more resources for higher ennobling ascension. So, it may vary. Kardec talks about it in the Spirit's book, saying that when we die, to reincarnate again, we may reincarnate in a few, and that depends on the level of evolution, but it may take hours, days, years, centuries, or more. But André Luiz reveals, the more knowledge we have and the more virtuous, the more we can stay in the spiritual realm learning. Why? Why? Because if I do not connect vibratorily with these colonies where there is some form of learning, there's usually we don't spend too much time learning anything there. We need to be reincarnating. And we cannot forget that our reincarnation is like a chess game. It's not only a plan for one person, but for this person to reincarnate, we need to have all the other players that pertain to a certain theme together. So it may take sometimes a while, or it may take a short period of time. But the more knowledge we have, the more virtues, the more time we may spend learning to reincarnate in better conditions and with higher success rate. Makes sense? Read the books by Andrea Luiz, From No Solar to When Life Goes On. But there's one in particular, Sex and Destiny. There is a moment in which they talk about the institute to teach people about sex, and they have different schools, classrooms, courses that they talk about, all different types of courses that people can take, and treatment areas as well. So sometimes we may spend there 50, 100, 200 years learning, helping, etc., and then reincarnate. The book Sex and Destiny talks about that. Next question in this chapter that talks about evolution and destiny is, could we identify could we identify evolutionary links that may exist in the non-physical plane that are unknown on Earth? Well, what is Andrea Luiz asking here? He's talking about evolution and destiny. He's saying, can we evolve beyond an incarnation, meaning in a non-physical plane in the spiritual realm? Can we evolve there? Well, beyond the physical plane, human research will find valuable material of observation to elucidate, to shed light in the various problems concerning the evolution of the being. So he's saying, yes, there are evolutionary steps that happen in the non-physical, right? Pretty much. Is that it? And he says, sorry, in another question, pause, I won't get you confused. So we can evolve in between reincarnations, period. Rihanna is saying, this is so loving that our incarnation is so lovingly prepared for us to learn and better ourselves. Exactly. And that's why, Rihanna, as you point that out, we can see that our Andrea Luiz was right when he said, we're writing this book to ignite the fire of hope in our ascension to God. So when I know that I can evolve here and there, I love life. I start enjoying life and saying, I am joy of living. You are joy of living. No matter where we are, the discarnate spirits also find out that they are joy of living. Read the book by Andrea Luiz, all the books, and we see how much we can evolve there and register that evolution when we reincarnate next. Another question that he asked, there are two more questions. Do spiritual instructors currently get involved in the improvement of the inferior evolving forms of life in which the spiritual principle does internship? Yes, because all the fields of nature have agents of divine wisdom working on the formation and the expansion of the values of evolution. Friends, I'll tell you straightforwardly, when we read this question and the answer, Andrea Luiz is such a good educator that he's repeating what he said in the whole book. He says, always there are agents of divine wisdom who are propelling us to move forward. Press on. Says Amin in the book Living Springtime again. Press on, press on. Let's go. Expand. It's like a personal trainer. In all fields of nature, meaning when you look at a plant, there are high spirits interested in that experience, in that internship of the spiritual principle. When you see an animal, do not despise any, because in any form, it's an internship, sacred for that spiritual principle. And there are divine agents, spirits that are more evolved, that are working on the best clothing, the best opportunities for that spiritual principle to expand and acquire new values. So what about your guardian angel? My guardian angel, our guardian angel. Dear, let me create a scenario for you to test this, to practice that. Going to school one day is not going to do the deal. We have to repeat the lesson. Effort, repetition. It's hard, but try it again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Then we get it, right? Is that beautiful? Of course it is. We learn the secret of life. There's nothing you cannot achieve if you put effort and recapitulation. You can do it. I can do it. We can do it. So put your hand on your chest and affirm to yourself, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it under the divine blessing. Teach your children. There's nothing you cannot achieve or that you cannot learn if you actually put effort and repetition. That's the secret. That's it. Okay? Of all the higher animals below humans, which is the holder of more enlarged, fragmented ideas? Pause. Before we answer to this question, shall we, friends? Pause. Why is he asking this? Because in these last questions, he's showing to us that it's not only about humans, it's about life as a whole. I hear many people telling me, oh, Buddhism teaches us to respect nature. But Spiritism, well, Spiritism repeats it time and again, that we shall be reverent to each and every single moment of evolution in nature. But we don't pay attention. But the literature is pointing to that direction. And in this chapter, in the whole book, we learn, and in this chapter, it's reinforced how sacred every stage and every internship is. A cat, for us spiritists, is no longer a simple pet. A dog is no longer my loyal friend. Much more than that. My responsibility before the animals. My responsibility before my vibrations towards the plant kingdom. We are imprinting vibratorily our pattern on them. And that, in the long run of millennia, will become co-responsible. We will become co-responsible. I have wonderful friends who tell me, when I do the God at home, my cat, my dogs come. Beautiful. You are already imprinting that reverence to God onto their fragmentary minds. They don't have continuous thought. They have fragmented. It's like psh, psh, psh. They have moments of lucidity consciousness. And it varies. So that's what Andre Luiz is asking us. So we have greater reverence to animals. Beautiful question, beautiful answer. He begins by saying, the subject in long study in the sphere of technical developments, because there are certain fragments of ideas of certain sense which are more advanced in certain animals than in others. Okay, so it depends on the type of fragmented idea. How beautiful is this? You see how we don't know many things, and this part of the chapter is opening, teasing us with the new that is going to be brought to us in the future. But he says, yet we will nominate the dog and the monkey, the cat and the elephant, the horse and the mule as beings in the human usual experience that are more widely endowed with mental wealth as an introduction to continuous thought. The dog, the cat, the monkey, the elephant, the horse, and the mule. Jailton is saying, my cats stay close to me. They're very quiet when I do the gospel at home and this study too. Big hug to your cats, our brothers and sisters in humanity. We need to train ourselves to feel this way, right? Thank you, Jailton, for sharing it. So next time you look at your dog, thinking, let us think. We are not only taking care of the physical body, but the education of that spiritual principle. When I see dog trainers and owners that train their dogs to be angry, to attack, to be mad, they don't know what they are doing. We need to interact with nature with reverence and respect. Right? Thank you, Jailton. So what does the end of this chapter tell us? About things we're yet to learn, sure, and two, telling us that in our evolution, we're also responsible not only for our destiny, but what we're doing with our brothers and sisters who depend on us, including animals, plants, the mineral kingdom in this world. What an invitation, huh? Our homework is to outline the top 3 strong impulses that we bring from many lives. It could be good or bad, as long as we know how to outline them. Top 3, okay? That's our homework for today. Tomorrow, when we come back, Andre Luiz continues this by talking about morbid predispositions. He's going to tell us about ourselves and how we incur in health or disease. He's going to explain to us from an angle of 2 worlds how this happens. I think it's going to bring a lot of hope to us and a lot of awareness for the long run of our immortality. Friends, let us thank God for the opportunity we had to be here today of studying this and sharing the good news with one another. We pray that all those who are in greater need than ourselves in the world receive this shower of healing light. For now, we wish that everybody feel these blessings and multiply it in your daily lives. Gratitude and a big hug. And until tomorrow, God willing, Kardec Radio, nourishing our souls with evolution into worlds.